I call this meeting of the Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. Good evening to everybody. Tonight, the Board of Trustees is meeting in its called work session board meeting. The board welcomes and appreciates comments and input from the community. Open forum is provided at each meeting to allow the public to address the board. There'll be two open forums tonight. Open forum number 1 is to hear requests regarding agenda items only. Open forum number 2 is to hear requests or make comments regarding non-agenda items and will be heard at the end of the meeting. Those addressing the board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes per meeting. The speaker should identify his or her name, group affiliation, if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if the person addressing the board has attempted to resolve a concern informally or through the district's complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. The board requests that all presentations be made in a courteous, respectful, and professional manner, and asks that speakers monitor their own behavior. If you wish to speak during one of the open forums, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. Any comments, Dr. Harrington?
The only thing I wanted to make a comment, I wanted to publicly thank Eva Magana for assisting me at the State of the District presentation at the Chamber Luncheon the other day.
All right, any clarifications required?
None at this time.
All right, I'm just going to take a quick point of privilege to make a quick announcement from our Fine Arts Department. The Trinity High School Percussion Ensemble and the Central Junior High Full Orchestra, which has students from orchestra and band, have both been selected to perform at the 79th Annual Midwest International Band and Orchestra Clinic in Chicago this December. Is it this December or next December? Oh, it's coming December. Okay. All right. This is a monumental honor. Only a handful of ensembles from around the world are invited. And having 2 groups invited is quite an accomplishment. This will mark the 4th and 5th performances of HEB ISD groups at Midwest in our district's history. So next year, with the Bell Band performing at Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, our HEB VPA students will be on the national and international stage 3 times. So that's very exciting news. All right, we're ready for open forum number 1. Nothing. All right, then at this time we will adjourn into closed session pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The board will adjourn into closed session pursuant to sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.076. At this time, the board will reconvene into open session. We are at item 6.01, disbursements for the month of March 2025. Any questions on disbursements? All right, 6.02, intruder detection audits. Mr. Phillips.
Good evening again. I will be quick, just to give you guys an update over the last 3 months where the audits have been. We've had 10 in the last 3 months. We did have 4 failures this last time. One of those I'm appealing, so I will talk about that in a minute. But January 15th, Meadow Creek Elementary received their audit. January 17th, Trinity High School received their audit. March 25th, both Euless and Bedford Junior High received audits. Was provided with immediate reportings each day. Meadow Creek and Trinity High School and Euless each had exterior door failures where the latches were just not completely locking. Trinity's happened to be at one of the portable buildings, so again, I do understand that as construction is going on at these campuses and they're still being audited, that those are going to happen, but it's just a matter of when the auditor shows up and where they go. Last year when they showed up at Trinity, there happened to be somebody working at that front gate at that moment, and they weren't allowed onto campus without showing ID, so Trinity was able to pass last year. So even though the fence at Trinity helps that, when you have an audit situation, if the auditor is able to come onto campus when someone is not at one of those gates, which is what happened this time, and then they were able to drive straight up to the portable buildings and pull on doors. So that's what happened there. At Meadow Creek and Euless, both of those were kitchen doors, which have lots of traffic, and that's why the auditors check those, because there's a lot of traffic that comes in and out. Those locks don't always latch, they get loose, and those are things that we had to stay on top of. For the Bedford Junior High audit, I am appealing that one. The access control at the front door was down that day. We were waiting on a part to have that fixed. So the auditor was able to walk in the front door because it wasn't locked, but they were not able to gain access to the campus because we have the vestibules in there now. So my argument was, you are still not allowed to get into the campus. And I think that we will be fine on that appeal. But she said based on her training that she had to put that in. So that's where we stand on those. I believe we have 2 more audits scheduled for this month and then 3 more next month, and then we will be complete for the year. Any questions?
Dan, in regards to the kitchen, did we retrain or fix or change? What do we do?
It's a matter of, I went to each campus, talked with the staff, we had maintenance come out, we've had the doors checked. It's really just something that I've had to push through of making sure that we're actively checking on that. They get so many deliveries through there, the doors get banged around a lot, and that's what I've noticed. If you go through any cafeteria door, there's dents in the doors usually. Those doors get hit with dollies that are full of equipment and food, so. It's just a matter of, and the staff does a great job. I mean, these were days where they weren't working correctly.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Next, we have report on frontline flex pay by wage stream employee financial wellness option. Ms. Klomb?
Good evening. Thank you guys for your time today. I am so excited to introduce a new payroll initiative that aligns with 2 components of the HEB ISD strategic plan, employee success and safety and well-being, with a special focus on our employees' financial well-being. The program's called Frontline Flex Pay, and it's powered by WageStream, a global leader in financial wellness and technology. Frontline Flex Pay is a free benefit to our employees that gives them more control over their earnings, reducing financial stress, improving retention, and helping our staff build stronger financial futures. In this short presentation, I'll explain what Frontline Flex Pay is, why we're implementing it, what the impact has been on other schools, and when we will be launching. WageStream is a charity-backed B Corp certified financial well-being company that serves over 3.5 million employees worldwide. Frontline FlexPay is built specifically for school districts who utilize the Frontline Education Program platform. The key features of the Frontline Flex Pay are available to all of HEB ISD employees who enroll in the program. They're called Track, Flexible Pay, Save, and Budget, and I'll briefly cover each one. With Track, they get real-time tracking of earnings as the shifts are worked. One really great unattended benefit of Track is that employees tend to make sure that they clock out at the end of the day, which we get a lot of missed punches. So payroll is really excited about that, because if they don't clock out at the end of the day, they won't see their wages accrue in the app, and they'd really like to see their wages accrue each day. With Flexible Pay Stream, employees can access their earned wages without any loans or credit impact. So the only fee with this program, because I know you're thinking, what's the catch? How can this be free? Is if an employee has an instant transfer, like on a Venmo account where you have to have the money that day, you pay the fee of $3.29. If you're willing to wait 24 hours, the transfer is free. Also, WageStream caps the fees at 10 per month, so $32.90 per month, which is less than the average insufficient fee charge from a bank. My favorite thing about the program is called the Save feature. They are offering an FDIC-insured savings account with a 5% APY on our savings accounts. So they're trying to encourage long-term savings. Yes, I said 5% APY on a savings account. I will definitely be signing up for that myself. WageStream is actually paying the interest for this as a part of their social impact mission. So any schools that have signed up for this program before the end of this school year, which we have, will be getting that feature. So I'm excited about that. And the last but not least is Learn, financial education piece, where people can have on-demand financial education that was created in partnership with Visa and the Financial Literacy Institute. So you can see this is a comprehensive financial wellness benefit for our employees, not just early access to their pay. So we know that financial stress is a significant issue, and especially between pay periods. By giving our employees access to their money as they earn it, along with the savings tools and education, we can help them feel more in control of their finances, avoid costly payday loans and overdraft fees, and save consistently over time. So just a few stats for those of you who like data. Districts using Frontline Flex Pay have seen 92% employee support for flexible pay. 91% say they feel more in control of their money. 77% borrow less from credit cards and payday lenders, and all of this support comes at no cost to us and our employees, except that $3.29 instant transfer fee. In addition, 86% of users say their financial situation has improved. 70% report reduced reliance on payday loans, and over half now regularly save money from their paychecks. The employee testimonials speak for themselves that this product brings real, meaningful change. Other districts have shared powerful feedback. Dr. Smith from Bellevue Public Schools said, when we bring new employees on board and they're coming from a job that paid every 2 weeks, and we tell them it's monthly, it can be a deal breaker. Frontline Flex Pay helps us bridge that gap. So we are already starting. Our tentative launch date is May 12th. We're in the stage of communication, planning, technical integration. And after that, we'll have 2 to 3 weeks of testing, staff enrollment, and training. After launch, we will continue to have dedicated support from WageStream to make sure everything runs smoothly. The payroll department is working closely with HEB ISD Communications, technology, and HR teams to make sure this launch is seamless. Frontline Flex Pay by WageStream will give our employees the tools to manage their money better, access their pay when they need it, build savings, and reduce stress. It's a powerful, cost-free way to support our staff, enhancing employee success and financial well-being by improving our recruitment and retention, while showing our commitment to our employees' well-being both at work and at home. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Will we offer this to our subs or our long-term subs?
Yes, it will be offered to subs as well. all subs, not just long-term subs. When they complete a job, then their little balance will go up. Our part-time EDA workers every employee will have access if they choose to enroll.
Any other questions? I was happy to see the educational aspect
Yeah, me too.
that's built into it. I don't know what's all included in that, but I mean, I've dealt with this kind of stuff with my own employees, and you know, it really comes down to the breaking the cycle of the paycheck to paycheck type. Yeah, and everyone has different circumstances, and but you know, the more education you can do for folks and help them get away from that paycheck to paycheck to where they're not having to go in and tap into their pay early.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really you want to be. I don't know if we have any other programs through HR or any programs for new teachers coming straight out of college about how to manage money or do budgets, but it's always amazing how few people actually know how to make a budget, and you know, as a school district, you know, I think that gets brought up a lot, that you know, kids should graduate from school knowing how to make budgets and do all that. But I've worked with many people who are older than me who I had to teach how to do budgets. So it's a very important skill, and any you know, education that we can provide for our employees, I think is helpful in terms of, you know, managing their money and getting off the cycle where you're constantly having to, you know, get money early and things like that. So, but thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, the 2025 graduation update, Ms. Rhodes.
Good evening. Again, here's our graduation update. So Keys High School graduation will take place May 23rd at Cross City Church. Student arrival time will be 5:15 and graduation ceremony will start at 7. Trinity High School will be May 25th at Dickies Arena. Student arrival time 1 o'clock. Graduation ceremony will start at 2 p.m. LD Bell, May 25th as well at Dickies Arena. Student arrival time will be at 5 p.m. Graduation will start promptly at 6 o'clock. General parking is $20. Each graduate will receive 1 free parking pass. Parents and students will be allowed to park in the yellow lots in Chevrolet parking garage, and staff parking will be in Montgomery lot. Open seating will take place on the plaza level, level 2, with handicap seating available there, and elevators will be at each side. There's a bag policy. This is a list of approved bags and non-approved bags for Dickies Arena. Additional information, transportation for the board will be available from the administration office to Dickies Arena, and seating at Dickies and Cross City Church will be open and tickets are not required. Any questions?
So parents and students get 1 free pass. What about staff?
I'm not sure.
I think it's a finite number of passes they have. I don't know if it's 1 per everyone, though, but I think it usually is enough for they usually carpool down, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a set of passes for staff that are workers.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Okay.
All right, thank you, Katina. 2025 summer school report.
Good evening. That's the last slide. Okay, we want to speak with you tonight about our summer programs coming up in just a short time here. And all of this relates to our strategic plan in the area of Priority 1 student success. So our elementary programs will include the Early Language Proficiency, or ELP program as we call it, and that includes current pre-K and kindergarten students who are identified as emergent bilingual. And the content focus is language acquisition. It'll take place from June 2nd through June 27th, with a holiday there on June 19th for a total of 19 days, and that will be at Oakwood Terrace Elementary. We're projecting about 450 students. So all of our pre-K and kindergarten emergent bilingual students are invited, but they don't all attend, of course. But We think we'll have, that's a pretty big number, so we're prepared. We hope they come. And then we also have at Oakwood Terrace Elementary Language Academy for rising first through fifth grade students who are also emergent bilingual. They've also been identified by campus and TELPAS data for additional language development. So again, focusing on language acquisition for those kiddos. The program dates are June 2nd through June 18th for 13 days, and that will be half days. And we're projecting about 200 students. Both of these programs, transportation will be provided, summer dining is included, and of course, no cost to the students. And that's it for elementary, because as you recall, we are not having elementary enrichment this summer, and we'll talk a little bit later in the presentation about program offerings for this summer. So I'm going to kick it over to Ms. Rhodes.
Secondary programs. 7th through 8th grade course recovery. These are students that did not meet promotion standards. All 4 core content areas are available. There are 2 sessions. Session 1, June 9th through the 20th. It's Monday through Friday with a holiday on the 19th. Session 2, June 23rd through July 3rd, and that holiday is on July 4th. 9 days per session, 1 or 2 subjects, maximum 2. 3.5 hours per day. It's located at Central Junior High School, and we average about 150 participants for 7th and 8th grade. It does satisfy HB 1416 for accelerated learning. Secondary programs, 9th through 12th grade credit recovery. These are students that did not pass a specific course. Multiple content areas available through Edgenuity. 2 sessions available there, the same dates, June 9th through the 20th, Monday through Friday, with the holiday being June 19th. Session 2, June 23rd through July 3rd, with the holiday also July 4th. 9 days per session, the same requirement, 1 or 2 subjects per session. It varies in hours, 3 to 4 hours per course. It is online only, and projected enrollment is about 300 students. Transportation is not provided. Summer dining, of course, because it's online, but it's a $35 registration cost at $125 per course. Same thing for 9th grade through 12th credit advancement. These are students seeking to add courses to their credits, maximum one credit. Multiple content areas available through Edgenuity. Session 1, June 9th through the 20th, Monday through Friday, and then session 2, June 23rd through the July 3rd. 9 sessions. It varies in hours as well. It's online, and we get about 150 to 200 students. Same registration cost at $35 and $125 per course. Secondary EOC intervention. These are students that are retaking the EOC exams, Algebra 1, Biology, English 1, English 2, and U.S. History. The program dates are June 2nd through the 13th, and it's Monday through Friday. Testing days are scheduled to be the 16th, 17th, and 18th, with a possible makeup day somewhere in there. 10 days, up to 4 days of testing, 3 hours per subject, up to 2 subjects per day. It is also located at Central Junior High School, and we're projecting about 200 enrollment. Transportation is provided along with summer dining, and it's no cost to students. It does satisfy HB 1416 as well. Secondary Language Academy. These are grades 6th through 12th grade students needing additional language support. The focus is language acquisition. Session 1 and 2, the same dates as the other programs, June 9th through the 20th, with the holiday on the 19th. Session 2, June 23rd through July 3rd, with the holiday on June 4th. 18 days in person, 3.5 hours per day at Central Junior High. Projected enrollment, we try to get as many as we can at about 140 students. No cost to students, transportation and summer dining available. Special programs.
All right, for our special programs, we have ESY, Extended School Year, for our special education students who the art committee decides that these students would benefit from this. We provide transportation and summer dining, and it's no cost to students. Going to be at Bell Manor. Camp Invention. Our K-5 students identified as GT or highly capable will get summer enrichment through STEM, and that'll be 5 days, 6.5 hours. No transportation provided, but summer dining is available, and the cost is $285 before discounts. Camp Invention Project Middle School, grades 7 through 8. Again, for our GT and AdBac students, STEM enrichment, 4 days, 4 hours, no transportation, summer dining. The cost is $200 for these students. IB Summer Academy is for our 10th and 11th graders who want to maximize their scheduling opportunities and have an opportunity to take some courses that they want to and get ahead, and also work towards program completion. No transportation provided, summer dining is available, and this is $30 a course and 4 hours per course per student. Superintendent scholars, these are our 9th graders who are identified in the PSA 8-9 for National Merit Scholar Potential, and they'll have 8 days of this. No transportation is provided, summer dining is available, and no cost to students, and this will happen 3 hours per day. The superintendent's merit scholars are for our 10th grade students based on PSAT NMSQT and who have National Merit Scholar Potential, and that'll be online, and the cost of that is $300 with $200 return at completion, and for our free and reduced students, it'll be $100 with $50 return. Camp Call, Chinese and Arabic language learning for 5th through 10th grade students who want to take Arabic and Chinese as part of the IB Business Initiative languages. It'll be 5 days, 4 hours at Central, 50 students. Summer dining is included, no transportation, no cost. And next up is Dr. Elledge to talk about summer reading in STEM.
Good evening, always a pleasure. I am going to kind of review a little bit of what I talked about last time with HEB Reads, which will be May 17th, is when we'll start. We'll run the campaign through July 31st. Kickoff will be Saturday the 17th from 10 to 1 here at Pennington. We did sign our contract with In-N-Out last week, so they will be returning. I know Dr. Harrington's very happy about that. But Dr. Johnson asked me to look at doing some STEM summer camps to kind of try to bridge the gap between the summer enrichment that we had done previously with elementary. So we came up with 3 different ones. This is going to be our coding camp, and we're going to target current 4th through 7th graders, and we are looking at students who are in Title I schools first. I'll tell you that story in just a second. This one is going to focus on different coding mechanisms, plugged and unplugged. We're going to run 2 different camps, so the week of June 2nd through the 6th and the 9th through the 13th. We'll do 5 days for each. It'll be all day. We'll do this at Central Junior High, and we are projecting, or we're hoping, that we can get to around 220 to 240 students a week on this one. We are providing transportation. We're going to include summer dining, and we did ask that families have a little bit of stake or a little bit of skin in the game, and we asked them for $25, and we're going to pretty much give that back to them at the end of the week. We're giving them a summer STEM kit to take home. We're giving them some STEM swag. We're giving them shirts. Anything we can think to give them that we think they might like, that they will use, we're going to give it to them. We're also going to do a Lego robotics camp. This one's going to be a little bit smaller because we do not have enough Legos for every child that would want to participate, unfortunately. Same target group, though, of 4th through 7th grades, same time period, and our goal is to do 40 students each week on this camp, so a total of 80 students. And same thing with the transportation, the summer dining, and the cost. And then the third one, we actually did this camp last year. We did kind of a smaller version of this one. This is a group that we've worked with before called Design, Connect, Create. They are a group that are focused on female empowerment in STEM, and they are going to provide, they're hiring our teachers to be the instructors for the camp. They're going to pay for our teachers to do it. But everything will be, this will be completely unplugged. There won't be any devices or anything. They're actually going to take a field trip to Bell on the last Friday of their camp on both weeks. So it will also be all day, and we're looking at 30 students each week to be able to run through these camps. Funny story though, whenever we sent these out on April the 1st to all of our Title I campuses. I had never sent out anything through Blackboard Messenger before. And Stacy Force, who's my office mate, said, oh, you need to send it through them. It's so much easier than the way I generally tend to do it, which makes it harder. When I sent it, I accidentally sent it to 10,908 people from my personal email address. So it has blown up for the last couple of weeks. So, but a lot of interest. As of this morning, we have, of the total for the 2 weeks, we're going to look at 440 kids. We have 380 that have already registered. And many parents wanting to know if they can send their kid to this camp on the first week and this camp on the second week. And as of right now, we're telling them no. We want to get as many students through as possible. But I did say if we had space at the end, then we would come back and revisit that. And then we are going to have a student showcase on June 6th and the 13th. So the Fridays of each one of those weeks at 2 at Central. So the students will be able to show off all that they've learned through the week. We have some very creative curriculum coming that will give them an opportunity to really shine. So if it's, in your schedule, please try to make it out to one of those 2 days. The other thing that we were tasked to put together, Dave Nilsson and I put together a summer enrichment program for students. This is kind of a work in progress. I know y'all told me it was somewhere. Okay, so we reached out to all 3 cities, and we have their summer offerings. Here we've also put our offerings, so I broke it down into HEB ISD, the 3 cities, and then Dave reached out to all of our community partners to see if anybody had anything that they wanted to put up here to offer to our families, just to give them the information. So we've linked as many things as we can link, and as we get more things from the community, as other city events come up, we will put them on here. It was too much to try to list out each one of the camps for each city, so we just said, go to the city's page to be able to see what they offer. So this is here. And I think after this evening, we will go live with this on the district's website. So, any questions for me?
All right.
Okay.
Any questions on summer camps or the summer school? Thank you.
All right.
6.06 District Benchmark Assessments. Dr. Norgard.
And good evening. This evening I am coming to talk with you about science and social studies. So the data looks just a little different because these are not tests that are given multiple years in a row like we see with our math and our ELA. But it is still aligned to our strategic plan under the academic rating of the district. And as a reminder from the ELA report, you will see in some of our trend data, last year we made that shift to interim. Our reasons for doing that are listed here. We went over them last time. We had a lot of good reasons for making that change. But after we were really looking at the predictive component, once we had interim and STAR results, we saw that they did not align as well as our own DBA assessments that we used. So even though it was provided by the same platform, we have moved back to our DBA process for this year. Also important to remember in analysis tonight, science this year has brand new TEKS, new instructional materials, new TEKS, new textbook, all of the things are new and a new test. And in fact, they're gonna have a different new test next year because this year is overlapping between the old and the new, and then next year we'll move to the new. So also have to keep that in mind when we look at year-to-year comparisons in science because the test itself is shifting. But let's talk a little bit about the year-to-year trends. That interim last year, as with ELA, is kind of in gray because it just didn't meet our same pattern that we usually see. You'll actually see on most of these, we are back around where we were in 21-22. If you look at our performances on the top and the bottom line, that's about where we are performing right now. Again, the interim just estimated our meets and masters compared to where our own DBAs have been, and then we see that it didn't predict as well for STAR. 8th grade science and biology. So all of those for science, and then we test social studies in 2 grades, both with U.S. history, the 8th grade U.S. history, which is up to the Civil War, and then our 11th grade U.S. history, which would be since. Now, as a reminder, 11th grade U.S. history, we're on trimesters. We have done different things with this assessment in the past because trying to find the right time to test students, because they're not even all at the same point in the curriculum at the same time. So in those 2 years that we were not, as we continued to struggle with where's the best use of our instructional time and the best use of our data, we were using CBAs only in class. We went back when the interim was available next year, and now we've moved back to the DBA that we had previous years. But it was given during their B trimester of the course. So not a shutdown day where everybody takes the DBA because they weren't all in the same place. So when they're in the B trimester, the second half of their course, they had a day that they would take the DBA. So we don't have cohort performance trend. I could try to compare for you our 5th and our 8th grade science, our 8th and our 11th grade U.S. history. But what I want to bring to you instead, this is some graphics that I brought to you in the past, but just to remind, this is my first time to bring this graphic to you this year. So to remind you what we're looking at, we're going to look at the growth from DBA to STAR, or the EOC. Okay, because I mentioned that when the interim over-predicted that, we didn't see the same kind of growth. We're used to seeing here's where we are at DBA, so we expect to be in this range at STAR. So a reminder of what this graph is. You're looking at 4 years worth of history, so that's 4 different groups of 5th graders, okay? The lighter color bars are the DBA or the interim, which I gave kind of its own lighter color and that lined designation so you can see how the pattern looks differently. And then the darker bar next to it, purple, blue, or green, was the STAR performance. So you can see in those first 2 years, the growth that we would get, DBA, our teachers now have data, they intervene, we see higher scores when we get to STAR. And generally speaking, we see even bigger gains at meets and masters, because if our students are getting to approaches, remember that approaches bar includes, it's really approaches or higher, it includes the meets and master students, and a lot of what happens during that intervention is we're moving them within that bar. You were already at approaches. We don't necessarily gain a lot more at approaches, but we push students that were in approaches to be approaches and meets, or approaches, meets, and masters. So we see a little stronger growth there. But you can see here, this is just a clear example of how interim didn't meet that pattern. It overestimated our meets and masters. So rather than seeing a growth, we saw a decline there. And then you can see in the current year, here's where we are based on our DBA. So we'll be studying to see, based on our interventions that we provide, where do we end up on STAR. So here's the same thing for 8th grade. You see the growth when we were in our DBA process, but in our interim era, didn't work quite the same way. For biology, our biology is generally really high at approaches, so that's when you really see very little movement because we're already so high already on DBA and then moving into EOC. And then for social studies, here is our 8th grade. And U.S. history, as I mentioned, those first 2 years represented in the graph, that's only the EOC data because we were doing CBAs, which would not be appropriate to make a comparison to STAR. Ironically, it was the one interim that was a little bit closer than where we've seen in the past. Any questions about our science or social studies DBA? Our teachers have this data in hand and they are working the plan right now with all of their students.
All right, so next year, planning on sticking with DBAs?
That is our plan at this point in time. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, we're ready for regular monthly board agenda items, 7.01, financial statements for the month of February 2025. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Board. I'm bringing to you this evening the financial statements ended February 28th, 2025. Starting off with the general fund, we had a fund balance of $244,633,523. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $66,330,239. Of interest is the interest revenue for the year as of this reporting period, which was $2.4 million. So we continue to do well with our interest income. Total expenditures as of the end of February were at 48.23%, so below our 6/10 or 6/12 of the year, however you want to look at it. That's within our benchmark, so fund is performing as expected. The general fund expenditure matrix, we had payroll of $92,474,773 for the period, and it's current. That's 84.9% of the budget. Utilities were at $2,508,736 or 2.3%. Instructional supplies were at $1,541,328 or 1.4% of the budget. And other expenditures were at $3,129,446 or 2.9% of the budget. Child Nutrition Fund. Fund balance of $7,490,525. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $571,898. Department's operating well as it does month after month. Total expenditures as of 2/28 were at 43.71% of their budget, so well below the mark. Debt service fund, we have a fund balance of $64,588,059. That's revenues over expenditures in the amount of $40,339,353. As you know, we've made our first debt service payment back in February, and that second debt service payment will be executed before August 15th, for a total for the year of $62,033,800. Interest income for that fund is sitting at $859,000 for the year. The tuition-based pre-K fund, we have a fund balance of $515,051. That's revenues over expenditures in the amount of $174,901. Revenues received for the period is at 69.87% of the budget. What was budgeted, total expenditures were at 51.05%, so that fund is performing well. Special revenue funds, those were, total expenditures were at 38.40%. As I say, each month, those are skewed a little because some of those they roll over year after year, and our revenues lag behind because we spend the money first and then ask for reimbursement. But they're all tracking as expected. Campus activity funds setting at $3,758,600. That's revenues more than expenditures in the amount of $396,172. Revenues were $1.7 million, while expenditures were at $1.3. So they've taken in a little more than they're spending, but I bet we see a change in that trend before the year end. The 2024 bond fund, we're setting at $555,863,184. That represents expenditures over revenues in the amount of $17,039,160. We won't see any more revenue into this fund until we make that next issue of bonds, which we're still looking at probably summer of next year. To issue the other $397.3 million. Interest revenue for this fund is sitting at $9.58 million. That interest revenue, as we start spending this down now that construction started, that our revenue will also go down on that interest, but that's the way it's supposed to work. So that fund is doing well. And the locally defined fund, we have $28,338,611. That's revenues over expenditures in the amount of $109,319. And like I say, we've come to the board with several different items. The most recent was the HVAC units, which I don't think I put that on there this time. I'll update that next time. But this fund is operating as should be. And I think that's it, unless you have some questions.
All right, any questions on financial statements? All right, let's look at budget transfers.
Budget transfers for the month are very minimal. I think $3,000 for some, one function to another for some travel-related expenditures.
All right, any questions on the transfers? All right, quarterly investment report for quarter ending February 2025.
That investment report is there for you, for your viewing pleasure. As I said, we are making interest as fast as we can make it, taking advantage of it while we can.
All right, any questions on the
foresee
report?
any big changes with investments in the future. So.
Any questions on that report? All right, 7.04 instructional materials adoption. Dr. Norgard.
Good evening again. I am coming to you with a slightly different approach to when I usually come talk to you about instructional materials adoption. In the past, I would simply come, I would bring a title forward, and I would ask you to adopt that resource for our district, and then as a separate consideration, we would then purchase the resource. But there are new things. House Bill 1605 from the previous legislative session has changed everything you thought you knew about instructional materials adoption. And I know you already knew a lot, right? And so now we've got to change all of that thinking. So I'm going to explain our process before I get to the title that I'm actually bringing you for adoption so that you can understand all the new jigsaw pieces in play. So really when I'm connecting this to the strategic plan, this is about student success, getting those right resources we need, but where the game has changed is in the funding of these resources and where we can draw the money for which types of purchasing. So this is a little bit of balancing what is the best choice to meet both objectives. So a little bit like we just had our ERG report and we're looking, for both measures. We want to be in that 1-1 box as we're looking at instructional materials as well. So the actual process of reviewing materials. The state has moved from 2 processes to 1. And this slide is the beginning of your alphabet soup for the night. So I hope you enjoy all of our new acronyms. We used to have an SBOE proclamation. Proclamation set the schedule for when we would look at materials. So the very last one, last spring I was here with Proclamation 2024. Those were our science books that we just implemented in the fall of 2024. They were scheduled way out in advance. We could see what was coming and we would plan appropriately. That was the schedule. The scoring of the resources came through Texas Resource Review. Those are now merged into one process, lovingly referred to as IMRA. Okay, so our IMRA, not to be confused with IMA, our IMRA, IMRA. Okay. While the way in which they're scored, we have a new system, really the things that we're looking for in the rubrics, very similar. Under both processes, does it have standards that are aligned? What are the instructional approaches, the content, progress monitoring, and the supports for all of our students, EB, SPED, GT, et cetera. What's different is the kind of score we're looking for in order to make the list. In the old process, when we looked at TEKS alignment, the resources alignment to standards, they had to match at least 50% of the TEKS. If it was a 5th grade science book, I needed to match 50% of the 5th grade science TEKS. And with that and the rest of the rubric, I could get on the approved list. Under the new system, under IMRA, we now have HQIMs, a high quality instructional material, which means it's 100% TEKS alignment. That's a big difference, 50%, 100%. So this has also changed our process. Sounds great, right? We like things 100% aligned. Okay, the schedule under IMRA, there is still a plan. It does extend many years in advance so that we can plan strategically, just like we could with proclamations. But here's what's important about this slide, because this is the slide right before I go to funding. It's going to take a while to get everything off of the old process and onto the new, okay? But until things move on to the new process, I have different ways that I can purchase. What I can purchase with something that's not on this list yet versus something that is already in effect are different. So I just want to give you one quick example. If you look almost to the bottom of the chart on pre-K, pre-K is not set to implement IMRA approved resources, HQIMs, until 2031-32. We've talked a lot about pre-K over the last few years. Chances are high we will need to buy instructional materials for more classrooms of pre-K between now and 2031-32. We still have pre-K materials on the previous approved list. We can absolutely still buy those, but we can't use the same money that we could use once it makes this list. Okay? More complicated process. Okay? That's the reviewing the materials. So how are we going to pay for them? So in the new funding model, under process, we went from 2 processes to 1. In funding, we went from this great big bucket, IMA. We all know IMA. That's an acronym we're comfortable with. Instructional materials allotment that I could buy things with, like instructional materials. Well, I now have an IMTA allotment. We could always buy technology with the old bucket, but this new distinction helps clarify we're in a new system, a new world. So it's the IMTA, Instructional Materials and Technology allotment, but there's an allotment and there's 2 entitlements. So I can also refer to the SBOE approved instructional materials entitlement, and there's the open education resource entitlement. At this point, you're probably wondering, what's the difference between an entitlement and an allotment? Let me tell you. Allotment, so the old IMA and the new IMTA for allotments, or these 2 new entitlement buckets. For an allotment, the amount varied. And in an entitlement, it's a set amount. We know what we're getting. Okay? The amount varied because it was established by the legislature. They had to set aside funds and say, this is how much money you get to pay for instructional materials. And the entitlement, we know. $40 a student for SBOE, $20 for OER. Well, because the allotments are set by the legislature, that's issued as a biennial. Don't spend it all that first year because it's got to last for 2. So you can see the last biennium we were awarded, but that had to last for 2 years. Okay? The entitlements will come every year. I know I'm getting $40 per student and I get it every year. So what if I don't spend all my money in that bucket? Allotments will roll over. So that's where we got very strategic with our proclamations, knowing, okay, I'm going to have to buy this next year. That's probably expensive because it's all of K-12 versus just a couple of designated courses. And so I could save up the materials, the resources, and they could roll over into the next biennium. The entitlement, one of them rolls and one of them doesn't. So again, these are all considerations we have to take into account when we're looking at the resources we're going to purchase. Biggest difference, what can I buy with the money? So the allotment, because that really is our old process, it just now has that T in it, that's our choice. If I want to use calculators instead, if I want to use those funds to buy map growth assessment, other things, that is our choice, and we can use IMA funds to do that. If we want to tap into the entitlements, I can only touch that SBOE bucket if something's been through the IMRA process. Remember that chart where I showed you things won't go, not everything goes through IMRA for quite a while yet? Okay, so I'm very limited in how I can tap into that bucket, and OER is Bluebonnet. That's what I can use that money for, is Bluebonnet. Both IMRA and Bluebonnet are considered high-quality instructional materials, so there's actually some double dipping you could do between those buckets, because Bluebonnet is both an OER and I could use SBOE material. Okay? What we don't know, in the image I gave you was a big bucket and 3 smaller buckets. Since we don't yet know what our allotment is, I don't know exactly how the sizes of the buckets will really compare. We are operating from a very conservative viewpoint that the total amount of money we're getting, we are not viewing these as, wow, here's 2 extra buckets of money. We're operating as if here's the same amount of money you typically got, and it's now divided into 3 buckets. We could have a surprise and find out that, yes, that allotment is going to stay a big bucket and we really did get extra money in the entitlement. But until we know that, we are operating in our most conservative financial position in purchasing resources.
So Holly?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding
It's
this
a
right.
lot.
So the IMRA, the schedule that's on, I'm assuming that corresponds with when the state board reviews TEKS? Is that when
Some,
do
yes.
they adopt new TEKS and then this goes into effect because now we can match it 100%?
Yes, but I only put the years on that chart of when the books would actually hit the classrooms that we'd actually be putting them in classrooms.
That'd be a
There's
year
actually a
before
much more
that.
complicated chart that shows here's a TEKS revision, here's a rubric revision. We can spend a year to 2 years revising the rubric and then going
Yeah.
on with that.
I just want to understand that those are all, they correspond and there's a timeline. So the state board can come in and change a TEK and then make all of our stuff that's now 98%, it's no longer qualifies because it's 98%, not 100%.
So, and we see that in our current system also, like when we had proclamations that were supposed to last 8 years and we get to year 7 and we're ready to start looking for a new material and suddenly they said, oh, we're gonna wait 4 more years before math undergoes another proclamation, or we have TEKS changes in the middle. So they start off the schedule aligned. They don't always stay that way. Okay, questions about the funding? I'm going to walk you through our very first example, so hopefully this then connects some of those dots for you. So our first materials to undergo the selection process is K-3 phonics, and we do have some of our participants from the curriculum department. We have our elementary ELA coordinator and our reading academy cohort leader that are here tonight. They helped lead this from the district level. Then we also have teachers involved, of course, in this process, and we made sure that we had all 21 elementary campuses represented, and principals had the opportunity to give feedback. But the way in which these different groups are giving feedback is a little different when we know we're already at 100% TEKS compliance. Okay, we don't have to pore over every resource and go, will this book actually touch all the TEKS? That part we know is handled. So what we did instead, the curriculum department is first looking through the lens of, are all of the products for each of the grade levels we need considered HQIM? Because when you only had to be 50% in compliance, maybe your kinder and first grade resources were 95% and second grade was 90, but everything was still well above 50%. If in these 4 grade levels we're considering, a vendor had three products that were deemed 100% in compliance, but one was only 98%, it doesn't qualify as HQIM and we can't use that funding source. We would have to use our IMTA money, which is already, we need to hold on to for the ones that can't tap into this new bucket yet. So that was one of our considerations, was where for continuity do we have something that made the HQIM list at all the levels. And then also, are the funds available for this purchase both sufficient, we have the money now, but also sustainable? Because as more subjects roll in, that $40 per student is $40 per student. It's not $40 per student per subject we're looking at. So we need to be looking at, I need this much money now, but I need to leave this much money for the future. So the curriculum department did that level of review of materials. Then the teacher and principal input. One of the biggest goals of House Bill 1605, among other things, was to eliminate some redundancy in our teachers' work and really helping them have better lesson planning and easier lesson delivery in their instructional resources. That's what a lot of this goal was. So that's what the teachers were able to do when they came in to review, is look at how would I plan with this resource? How do I deliver the lessons? Are they engaging? So after doing all of these things, we're recommending Sadlier from phonics to reading. It's on the IMRA list. We can use the SBOE bucket of money to pay for it. And I have attached those full reports of how it cleared the committee. If you need just to follow behind the disbursement or whatever else you were reading for light reading, you have those full IMRA reports as well. And in fact, then it'll have links to even more detailed. So questions about process, funding, or the product that we are bringing as our recommendation?
Holly, I'm just a geek. On slide 7, why is the rollout of the RLA in both 2025, 26,
Good question.
and 30 and 31?
Okay, so right now, you can see we could also be rolling out in 25, 26. We could be changing all of our reading language arts materials. They did ask for K-5 to go through the review this year, but to Mr. Romero's question earlier about aligning with new TEKS, that 2030-31 date aligns to when they would get new TEKS. So we chose only to review for phonics right now and keep going with our current resources for they call it full suite versus phonics is a partial because it's part of our ELA instruction. So we needed the phonics, but we're gonna keep going with our full suite and wait to line up with the TEKS. Math is the only other one available, and while they say math K-12 right now, it's pretty much K-8 and algebra. Very few vendors submitted any products above algebra to even be reviewed. So if there's nothing out for review, there's nothing we can buy. We'd have to use our IMTA funds to buy it. So we're hoping more math resources will add themselves. We heard from some vendors, and especially our ELA that was going through this for the first time, that some vendors were very reluctant because they didn't know how the new process was going to be. And as opposed to last time, you either made the list or you didn't. There is an approved and a rejected list. And I think some vendors were a little cautious about a rejected list. They'd rather have the option and, let me really be sure what I have before I put it through. So we're hoping more resources will submit for the IMRA process. Any other questions?
So Holly, we have some lofty goals in our strategic plan, especially when it comes to K through 3 reading.
Mm-hmm.
So this, from phonics to reading, other than it being stamped as approved, how does it factor into the resources that we're using right now?
Okay, so this is going to provide, and our ELA team may be able to give you, we'll see, they'll correct me, that we have some phonics sources, but because we were given new guidelines with phonics, this is going to align to all of those resources. We still have some other materials we already had in place that we use specifically, Hegarty, we use with intervention, et cetera, but this would be not just for students that are struggling, but making sure we have uniform phonics instruction for all of our students. Am I answering your question?
Do you think that's a change from what we have now?
It is a change from what we have now. Do you want to speak to that any? We can. So just to let you know. Leanne, if you'll come up here, just so if anyone's watching from home, they can hear. Part of it does change the minutes and the way our instructional time is divided.
Okay, one of the things to consider is that back in 2022, there was a different phonics ruling, and so we met those requirements at that time, but as Holly was speaking to, with the new rubric system that TEA has implemented now with the high-quality instructional materials and the IMRA process, it's a new set of requirements. And so this does fit that new set of requirements that the state has put forth through 1605, House Bill 1605. Did I answer your question?
Is it going to take any training for our teachers to implement this?
There will be, of course, anytime we have a new resource. And so we are already looking at, hopefully, we have our August PD days and we have our instructional plannings throughout the year. And so we will be implementing training for this program throughout the year.
If there was one difference that you would pick out, what would you say it is? What's the biggest change?
The biggest change, really the number of requirements. Before we were talking about systematic and explicit teaching, which this still has, but just goes much deeper into a more robust implementation of all of phonics from the, like Holly was mentioning, the Hegarty. This has pieces of the phonemic awareness. It has the phonics. It has word study. It has other elements built in. But it's just a very, very robust. Again, talking about the IMRA process, the rubrics have changed. I mean, when you look at these reports, each one of those reports on each one of these materials, and you can go to the IMRA page online and read all of the reports for all of the approved and the rejected products. They're 50 plus pages each. So they really went through, and the process is just more rigorous. Everything that they're looking for is much more in-depth than what we had before, which was about a page of some bulleted requirements that we needed to have.
So are you happy with this? You think it's an improvement?
I do, absolutely, 100%. I'm really excited about this product, not only because I feel like it will be richer for our students, but also I really believe, after listening to our teachers who were on the committees, talking about the product, and just from what I've seen and what we've walked through and the lessons and how much we've dug into the product, it will be easy for them to implement. The learning curve, of course, there will be a learning curve, but I do believe that our teachers will catch on. There's some systems and procedures that they will learn, and then be able to, turn every day one of a lesson cycle looks the same, every day two, just with those new elements. And so it will be, I think, an easy transition for our teachers. Of course, it's going to take some time, but we will, we have those training pieces already in process. With whichever way we go, we're ready to do all of that, so.
Okay, thanks, Leanna.
Uh-huh.
And I think that aligns to, if we are adopting something, that's why we did not bring forward a full suite adoption, because we don't feel like that's better than what we have. So we are trying to balance that need versus, we're not just buying something because we can out of this bucket. It's going to be the right thing. Anything else?
All right, any additional questions? All right, we'll move down to 7.05, certification of provision of instructional materials survey. Still you.
I'm sorry. There are no slides for this, but if you'll think about what I just shared with you about in the old process, we only needed 50% TEKS alignment. We're required to submit to TEA this form that shows how are we covering 100% of the TEKS, since previously the resources didn't have to. So what resources do we put together to meet 100% of the TEKS is this certification document.
Okay. Any questions? All right, thank you. 7.06, purchase of replacement Chromebooks. Mr. Kerbo.
Good evening, all. Good to be here again and bring some items to you for your consideration. This first item is for the purchase of 4,000 new Chromebooks to replace Chromebooks that are out of our servers or reaching their end of life. This one will have a correction that will be included at the April 28th meeting, but it's a good correction, and I'll have to report that. One of these devices were part of those items that were targeted for tariff increases. Over the weekend, that got repealed, but we'd already prepared this based on those projected prices. So Marilyn Biggers, who is Dr. Hopkins' secretary and secretary to the technology department, contacted our rep and asked for an updated quote. That updated quote resulted in $180,000 savings. So either a 2-minute email or phone call resulted in these savings. So these will be revised and brought to you, or included on the April 28th agenda.
All right, any questions on the Chromebooks? All right, purchase of Apple iPads and Apple Pencils.
This is a routine purchase we've made on several occasions, just to add 330 iPads and Apple Pencils to replace those that are no longer functioning properly.
All right, any questions on this purchase? 7.08, extension of annual purchases of fuel.
Tarrant County Purchasing Cooperative, where we purchase our fuel from, has just gone through their process to renew their contract, and in doing so, that triggers our action to be able to do that as well. So no changes in the vendors that are under that co-op that we'd be buying fuel from, but it's just a renewal that's routine.
All right, any questions? All right, annual fire inspections.
We do these each year for all of our fire systems in the summer. This cost actually went down from last year's cost, and it's under $100,000, but with properties that we have in various stages of renovation, we may need additional inspections that will push this over 100,000. So we're bringing this to you for approval and asking you for approval not to exceed $115,000 for these costs.
Any questions on fire inspections? All right, 7.10, purchase of box trucks for visual and performing arts.
Okay. We have looked at the need and to transport our band instruments and equipment over the last several years. About a year ago, we brought a report to you about what it took for us to do that, and we included that information in the Friday update. As you know, the board approved $1.5 million worth of instrument, and the need to protect that investment has to do a great deal with how we transport our instruments back and forth to events and competitions and so forth. We've been presented with an opportunity to purchase some trucks on our own long-term rentals, which is what these require for us to make sure we have vehicles to get back and forth from Bell and Trinity for practices and competitions and performances and games and so forth. It's a ongoing need. So, but we're having difficulty getting vendors to agree to that. So it's a lot of times it's scrambling around trying last-minute solutions, and we've managed to make it work. But this is an opportunity that kind of just fell to us, and we have the opportunity to purchase some trucks on our own that we will have and be able to use them as we need to. We looked at these 53-foot trailers that are very popular, and you see those at competitions and so forth. But after discussing that, getting the pricing on that, and discussing that with the band directors, they felt a better solution for us would be to buy our own trucks, because we could move them around as needed with the frequency that we go back and forth to the stadium and so forth. So this is a recommendation we'll bring to you for your consideration.
All right, is there any insurance issue there? Since, these are usually driven by, when we rent them, they're usually driven by volunteers.
Yeah, we'll have a waiver from the driver that they provide to us. So yeah, they'll be able to drive our vehicles, and the vehicles themselves will be covered, but any liability will go with the drivers.
Yes, will football still be using rental trucks?
Yes, they will, because we've found a solution. First off, they only use a 12-foot truck, and those are available through a specific contract that they're able to get them from Home Depot. They can go pick them up the night before and load up their equipment and utilize that, then return it. And that's not been an issue. Obviously, if that continues to, if they ever do experience that, we can look to a different solution. But it's working for them, and they don't need it every day like our bands do, or a long-term rental.
Is there any plans to maybe brand these after we purchase them?
Yes. We're in the process now of, finding out what the cost, actually designing we can wrap these, what that would look like. And I think both campuses are working on that even as we speak, to come up with some sort of a design. So yes, we'll do that. And that helps protect the truck in addition to, show off our assets.
All right, any more questions on this purchase? All right, thank you, Mr. Crowbell. 7.11, contract between HEB-ISD and the communities and schools of Greater Tarrant County. Dr. Johnson.
All right, this is our renewal for CIS. We have 8 caseworkers and 2 mental health professionals, and there's a slight increase of about $20,000 from previous years.
All right, any questions on this renewal? All right, TK Education Consulting Contract.
And really excited about this one because we want to continue our partnership with TK Ed Consulting. They do a fantastic job in making sure that they support our campuses. So we're looking to extend that and gain greater alignment at the junior highs. And so this is for ongoing support for our elementaries as well as our 5 junior highs.
All right, any questions on this contract? Okay, 7.13, extension of the Career and Technical Education CTE 2017 to 2018 digital instruction materials. Ms. Rhodes?
Good evening again. The board approved the adoption of the materials, the digital materials for CTE in April of 2017. The original length of access for the digital materials included in the adoption was for a period of 8 years. So that's ending June 2025. This purchase will extend access to those digital materials for an extension of 3 more years.
All right, any questions on this extension? All right, thank you. We have a few action items here. 8.01, consider approval of donations for the April regular board meeting presentation of certificates of appreciation. I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the April 2025 donations as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the April 2025 donations as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 8.02, consider approval of notice of general election. Mr. Williams?
Okay, as you recall, back in February, we called a trustee election. We're now at that point in the process where we must post notice in the paper, and we're bringing for your consideration the approval of that notice that will go in next week, April 16th, Wednesday, in that paper for the notice that states all the election polling places and all the different stuff that is required by election code. So,
Any questions? I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the notice of general election on May 3rd, 2025 to elect the HEB Independent School District trustees for place 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The board approve the notice of general election on May 3rd, 2025 to elect Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District Board of Trustees for places 2, 3, 4, and 5. Please vote. And that motion passes. 8.03, consider approval of updates to the 2025-2026 staffing table. Ms. Tuttle?
All right, we're coming to you this evening requesting a teacher on special assignment for family engagement and compliance, a threat assessment specialist, a .5 instructional specialist, and then we are completing a unit with an additional 25% in our PR and marketing department. Any questions?
Any questions on the staffing table? I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the new units in the staffing table as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the new staffing table as submitted. Please vote. That motion passes. We're ready for open forum number 2. No cards there. So down to other business. Does any board member have any items they'd like placed on a future board agenda? All right, 10.02, review of board activity chart. Does anyone have the chart? Usually it comes back to me. It didn't. So we're in April. Looks like we have everything covered through April. Okay, look to be in good shape there. 10.03 plus Delta, the extra mile reception. Dr. Harrington.
So it's time to plus Delta extra mile. So if you could take out your sticky notes and give me any plus deltas. The one thing I do want to point out, I know we had talked about reordering the awards, and I know we did that at this last event. So if you have any plus deltas from our extra mile, please let me have them, and I will come around and collect them, and we can review them.
I wrote them on a piece of paper, but I didn't think about the
I
sticky
voiced
notes.
mine to the important person in charge, so
Well, you
I don't
still
need
might-
to write mine. She knows mine.
Well, I would still write them down just in case. She may have forgotten or slept since then. Either one.
I think he's messing with Christine. All right, anything else?
I got more coming.
Oh.
I got some pluses.
All right, we'll start with, let me get the mic. Okay, so we'll start with the pluses. Miss Cumberledge as the MC. So I guess that's an upgrade on me. No. I'm teasing. I don't think, it wasn't me. I
don't think you've ever emceed.
I don't think I have done that one. Good job. Great location. Great reception food options. Reception food. Like the food. And I like the reordering of the categories. Deltas. Oh, don't say the school name in the script. I know some of the, as we're doing the winter, you almost want to make them wait a little longer. Yeah. Yeah, and then the other one was don't say the winners until the end of the night. So folks don't leave. And then make sure that all the schools know that they can pick a person in each category, not just one. Yep. So, very good. I will have Ty take care of these, and we will take them into account as we plan our next extra mile.
All right, thank you, Dr. Joe. All right, 10.04, consider approval of Texas Association of School Boards Superintendent of the Year. Has everyone had a chance to review this resolution? Any questions? I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the TASB Superintendent of the Year resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the TASB Superintendent of the Year resolution. Please vote. and that motion passes, so we'll start signing that this evening? Okay. Yeah, Deanne has that for us. All right, 10.05, consider approval of nomination for TASB Board Position, Region 11A. As you all know, this is the position that our own Julie Cole holds right now, so this is a recommended action to approve her nomination to run for the same office again. So any questions on that? I'll accept the motion.
Move the board approve the nomination of Julie Cole for the TASB Board Position, Region 11A.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, for the board to approve the nomination of Julie Cole for the TASB Board Position, Region 11A. Please vote. All right, and that motion passes. 10.06, consider approval of selection of nominating committee for board officers. So as you all know, this is a process we go through every year. So we're going to start by going around the dais and letting everyone have a chance to say if they would like to serve in a board officer position for the coming year. And then we will randomly select our committee of 3, and then they will discuss amongst themselves who they're going to put as a slate at the regular board meeting come May. So I'll start with Mr. Cargile.
Can we table this till everyone's here?
I have their, they gave it to me, and so I'll read it for them when they,
Proxy, huh?
yeah. Don doesn't need to.
I'm open to anything.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Brown, let me read his text real quick. Okay, Mr. Brown says he's happy to serve in any officer position other than president. Ms. Cole sent me this. She says, I'm sorry I cannot attend tonight's meeting. I'm helping a friend in North Carolina following her knee surgery. I'd be honored to serve in any officer position that the board chooses to place me in. So that's from Julie.
I'm going to pass. I think I have my plate full with retired teachers and this board for next year.
And I am also willing to serve in any position that the board would like to put me in. So, so that's around the dais. Everyone knows where everyone stands. So we'll randomly select the committee here. It's not in here, I don't believe, right? Don's name isn't in here, right? All right, so. Number 1 is Julie Cole. Number 2 is Chris Brown. And Fred Campos. All right, so based off of those selections, our nominating committee is going to be Julie Cole, Chris Brown, and Fred Campos. So I will accept the motion.
I move that the board approve Julie Cole, Chris Brown, and Fred Campos to participate on the board officer nominating committee. I second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve Julie Cole, Chris Brown, and Fred Campos to participate on the board officer nominating committee. Please vote. Yeah, I guess so. And that motion passes. Yeah. Well, since you're the one here, Fred, you can chair.
That was going to be my recommendation.
Okay. All right, we do not need a second closed session, correct? Then I will accept the motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.